Hey there and welcome back. This is episode 2 of my Bulgarian winter expedition. In today's episode, I'm going to go over all of the pre-trip planning that it takes to envision an expedition, plan it, and then execute it. If you're new to the channel, my name is Brian and I'm planning an 800-kilometer expedition on skis and hiking boots to travel across the entire country of Bulgaria. I'll be documenting the entire journey from right now, the pre-trip planning, to my weekly updates as I go through, and then talk about a little bit of the things that I've learned at the end of the trip. The experience I have for this comes from 2 previous expedition type activities that I've been involved with, but both have been planned by my wife, and I've been acting more as a supporter. For this trip, I'll be the one planning everything, so it'll be coming from my perspective and hopefully learning everything of the lessons of what went well and what didn't go well from some of the other expeditions I've been involved with. If you've been following along on some of our other social media channels, you'll know that my wife, Krista, completed a 2,200 kilometer expedition of crossing Croatia on foot in the summer of 2022. She went and traveled to all of the cardinal points of Croatia, following along something called the Croatian Long Distance Trail, the CLDT. In that role, over those 3 months that she was attempting her hike, I acted as the support vehicle, driving our camper van to the start and finish point each day so that I could kind of help her out with all the logistics and she could focus on her hike. She averaged about 30 kilometers a day, and for the back half of her trip, she was hiking sometimes upwards of 40 kilometers per day. There's a few things I think to consider. It's your skill set and activities, the geography, and also what's sort of available to you at that time and based on your experience. So for myself, we've been currently driving our camper van, trying to drive it around the globe. We started off crossing Canada, shipped our van across to Germany, we've been making our way through Europe, and for the last few months we've been in Greece. Because of visa requirements, and particularly the Schengen group of countries, we need to now find a non-Schengen country to continue to in our overland journey. From where we are right now, that meant that some of the options available to us were Bulgaria or Turkey. As I started looking into the geography, one of the tools I used was Google Maps, and I switched off from the road version of the map and I switched over to the terrain version. As I did this, it became very clear that the country of Bulgaria is very lucky to have beautiful mountain ranges that cross the entirety of the country. In particular, for the ones that I'm looking at on my expedition, there's a prominent range that crosses the east to west of the country, and then another group that goes north to south. That's what I'll plan on using. If you're like me, you didn't really think of the Balkan Peninsula as a place for mountain expeditions. A lot of the marketing material that I've seen for various places here on the Balkan Peninsula focus on the crystal clear blue waters and amazing beaches, and they definitely have that. But I think there's a lot more to explore beyond the marketing material, and we've seen that as my wife and I have driven through the various countries here. Amazing mountain ranges, beautiful forests, rolling hills. There's so much to be seen in the areas off the coast, and if you've been following on my wife Krista's channel on YouTube, her weekly vlogs have documented some of the places that we've explored away from the coastline, because her and I both love mountains. You can find a link to her channel in the description below. When it comes to skill set, the activities that I particularly enjoy are number 1, skiing, and number 2, hiking. But number 1, I definitely have this love for cold weather, lots of snow, and being on skis. So for that activity, in the last few years, I've come up and I've started ski touring. This is the act of being able to go up and down a mountain, or really any area, on skis using one set of equipment. For that, as I thought about my expedition, it was natural for me to want to use the equipment that I already have and that I have experience with. As I talked about in the previous video, I've been ski touring for years and I've done several multi-day trips, so I'm quite familiar with the equipment and I already own it all. So from a financial standpoint, it makes sense because I don't really need to change very much. We have everything with us. From an experience standpoint, I've been slowly working my way up on the different difficulties of what I've been doing, allowing me to be able to feel confident to do an expedition like this. So we've talked about the geography, we've talked about the activities. Now let's talk about some of the existing trails that are out there and how I can actually come up with a route. In order to know what was feasible, I first started with using experience that I have from previous trips. I know on average that on hiking a good trail, I can usually average 3 to 4 kilometers an hour in the summertime. I know that I'm quite capable of hiking anywhere from 10 hours a day up to about 14 hours without having an injury. Using my wife's pace, she was able to hike 30 to 40 kilometers a day and sustain that over for 3 months. I know that's not quite the same style of what I'm doing, and it was also a different season, but that's a good baseline that when I started planning my route, 800 kilometers in 3 months seemed like a realistic amount. To help me plan the route, I use an app called Gaia. Gaia is an amazing app and website that allows you to leverage terrain maps, topo maps, street maps, and plus a whole bunch of other layers to create a map and route for whatever sort of outdoor activity you're planning. Using the desktop version, I was also able to use a route planner that has really smart technology built in that when you start a route from a spot and then continue it to an end point, Gaia will suggest a route based on other people's previous hikes or other pre-existing trail networks. So instead of just drawing a straight line between the two, Gaia will attempt to show you a feasible route that has been used by others. So as I looked at Bulgaria, and I knew those 2 primary mountain ranges that I wanted to try and follow, I started just placing points along the route and seeing what Gaia would recommend. Very quickly I saw that there was an extensive network of trails all throughout the country. With a few hours of prep, I was able to put a route that brought me along, and I thought it looked pretty nice. But if I've learned anything, seeing a route on a map doesn't explain how that route will actually function in the real world. And for that, I think you really need to have local first-hand knowledge. You might be asking though, who do I know locally from Bulgaria? And the answer is I've actually only met one Bulgarian that I know to date. So as a photographer and also someone who posts on social media, I reached out to strangers that were posting photos on Instagram and had tags of things that were related to Bulgaria. Very quickly I was able to find local creatives who love getting outdoors, both in hiking and skiing, and who create amazing outdoor content. Once I started following a few of them and started to understand their style, I reached out to a few with a direct message, DM if you will, and explained what I was trying to do and asking if they were interested in contacting me so we could further discuss my plans for this Bulgaria expedition. Everyone was incredibly friendly, and I very quickly became connected with someone who would be pivotal to my entire trip planning expedition. Dimitar Dimitrov, who's created the book Skiing the Balkans, is both an entrepreneur and adventurer and author of this amazing book. I happened to reach out to him, and he spent over an hour with me on Gaia, taking a look at my route and telling me what areas he thought would be good and what areas I might want to change on my trail. He actually let me know that there are 2 major European routes called the E3 and the E4, which crisscross the entire continent of Europe, but in particular would be following very closely to where I had pre-established my route. With a few minor changes, I was able to modify that route and leverage that existing trail network to simplify my navigation. While I love exploring remote and wild places, in order to keep a pace of approximately 15 kilometers a day, I knew it would be important to use pre-existing trails and not just try and bushwhack my way across the country. Navigation while bushwhacking really slows your pace, and it can end up being very difficult. So for me at this stage, it was important to use pre-existing trails if they were available. Dimitar was amazing at giving me local information about weather patterns, snow patterns, prevailing avalanche conditions, and a whole bunch of information about the logistics of using the hut network in Bulgaria. I greatly look forward to meeting him, if it's possible, when I arrive in Bulgaria. The planning for my winter ski expedition across Bulgaria is really coming along, and I'm excited in the next video to start talking about some of the gear I plan on bringing to help support me with this endeavor, and explain why I'm choosing to bring that gear for this trip. Alright, thanks again for watching, and can't wait to see you in the next one. Take care. You just finished watching episode 2 of my Ski Across Bulgaria series. In the next episode, I will be covering in more depth my gear preparation and research. I hope to see you there. Video editing and production has been performed by Krista Norweg. Music is from Epidemic Sound.